Have you ever worked so hard for someone, only to realize one day they were ashamed of you? Not because you did something wrong, not because you failed them, but simply because of who you are and the life you gave them. This is a story about a parent who woke up every day before the sun, who came home long after it disappeared, who spent 12 hours a day working, not for dreams, not for comfort, but for one person, their child. Every morning started the same, a quiet kitchen, a simple breakfast, and a quick glance at a sleeping face in the next room. There was never enough time to sit, never enough time to talk, just enough time to make sure everything was ready. School uniform, lunchbox. A small note sometimes left quietly on the table. Study well, eat enough. I'll be home late. Then the door would close, and another long day would begin. Work wasn't easy, it was tiring. Sometimes painful, sometimes lonely, but none of that mattered because every hour worked meant school fees paid, meals on the table, a better future for someone they loved more than themselves. And for years, that was enough. Or at least it felt like enough. The child grew, taller, smarter, quieter, bousier. The conversations became shorter, the distance, hard to explain. But still, the parent kept going, still waking up early, still coming home late, still believing that all of this meant something. Until one evening, everything changed. It wasn't a big moment. Not loud, not dramatic, just a simple sentence, said casually, almost without thinking. I don't want my friends to know what you do. A pause, a silence that felt heavier than any long day. They wouldn't understand, and honestly, I feel embarrassed. Embarrassed, that word didn't shout. It didn't attack, but it stayed. It echoed long after the conversation ended. Long after the room went quiet again, all the years, all the early mornings, all the late nights. Different. Not wrong, but unseen, unnoticed, unfelt. That night, for the first time in years, there was no strength left to pretend it was okay. No quick recovery, no silent acceptance. Just a quiet question, sitting heavily in the heart. Was it ever enough? And maybe the harder question, did they ever understand why I did it? Because love, when it's quiet, when it's shown through sacrifice, is not always easy to see. And sometimes, the people we do everything for are the ones who understand it the least. But this story is not just about pain. It's about something deeper, something that takes time, something that often comes too late, but still changes everything. Because one day, the roles begin to shift, and the truth finds its way back in ways no one expects. But for now, it begins here, with a sentence that broke something quietly. I feel embarrassed. The next morning, nothing looked different. The same quiet kitchen, the same early alarm, the same routine that had been repeated for years, but something had changed. Not outside, inside. The words from the night before were still there, soft but heavy. I feel embarrassed. They didn't disappear with sleep. They didn't fade with time. They stayed like a quiet ache that followed every movement. Breakfast was made. Lunch was packed. Everything was prepared, just like always. But this time, there was no small note on the table, no study well, no eat enough. Just silence, not out of anger, not out of punishment, but because, for the first time, the words didn't come naturally. And maybe they weren't sure if those words still mattered. The door closed gently behind them, and another long day began. At work, nothing had changed either. The same tasks, the same long hours, the same tired body moving almost automatically, but the mind kept going back, replaying that moment, that sentence, over and over again, not in anger, but in confusion. Was my work something to be ashamed of? It wasn't a dream job. It wasn't something people admired. It was simple, honest, sometimes dirty, sometimes exhausting, but it was real, and it was done with love. Every hour, every drop of effort had a reason, a purpose, a person. But now, that purpose felt unclear. For the first time, there was a quiet doubt, not about the work, but about its meaning. Back at home, the distance grew quietly. There were still conversations, but shorter, more careful, more distant. The child avoided eye contact sometimes, not out of hate, but maybe out of discomfort or guilt or something they didn't fully understand yet. And the parent said less, not because they didn't care, but because they were learning something new, something unfamiliar. How to hold pain without showing it, how to continue loving, even when it hurt. Days passed, then weeks. Life didn't stop, responsibilities didn't pause, everything kept moving forward. But something soft between them had changed, and neither of them knew how to fix it. Until one evening, something unexpected happened. The parent came home earlier than usual, not by choice, but because the body finally asked for rest. The door opened quietly. The house felt different, too quiet, a slight dizziness, a moment to sit down, just for a while, just to breathe. And for the first time in years, work didn't come first. The body did. The silence did. And in that quiet moment, something shifted again. Because sometimes we only start to see clearly when we are forced to slow down. And sometimes the people who never stop giving are the ones who forget they are allowed to be tired too. But this moment, this small, quiet break, was not just about rest. It was the beginning of something neither of them expected. A moment that would slowly open the eyes. of someone who had never truly looked before. The house was quiet that evening. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you notice things you never paid attention to before. The bag placed gently by the door. The shoes, worn out more than they should be. The slow steps heavier than usual. The child stood there for a moment, watching, because something felt different. Not dramatic, not obvious, just off. Why are you home early? The question came out casually, but the answer was softer than expected. I felt a little tired today, just tired, nothing more. At least, that's what was said. Dinner that night was simple, quieter than usual. No small talk, no questions about school, no gentle reminders. Just the sound of chopsticks. And the space between two people who didn't know how to reach each other anymore. But something stayed in the child's mind. That image of someone who never came home early, sitting down before the night even began. The next few days, little things started to appear. Things that had always been there, but never truly seen. A slight pause when standing up. A hand resting on the table just a second longer than usual. A quiet breath, taken when no one was looking. And for the first time, the child began to notice. Not everything, not all at once, but enough to feel something unfamiliar. A question they had never asked before. When was the last time I really looked at them? Life outside the house was still the same. Friends, school, conversations, laughter. And one afternoon, that same sentence came back. But this time, it didn't feel the same. A friend complained about their parents, about strict rules, about pressure, about expectations. They don't understand anything, the friend said. The child nodded at first, out of habit, out of agreement. But then something didn't sit right, because suddenly another image appeared. Not strict rules, not pressure, but early mornings, late nights, quiet sacrifices, and a tired voice saying, "I'm just a little tired today." That night, the house was quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different, not distant, but heavy, full of things unsaid. The child walked past the room and paused. The door was slightly open. Inside, a familiar figure was resting, not sleeping deeply, just lying there. Still, as if even rest required effort. And for the first time, the child didn't walk away immediately, didn't scroll on their phone, didn't ignore the moment. They stood there, watching, thinking, feeling something slowly rise from a place they had ignored for too long. Not guilt, not yet, but something close, something quieter, something that asked very gently, "Do you really know what they've been carrying?" Because sometimes understanding doesn't come from words. It comes from moments, small ones, quiet ones, the kind you almost miss until one day you finally stop and see them. And that night, for the first time in a long time, the child didn't feel distant. They felt unsure. And maybe that uncertainty was the beginning of something deeper, something that would soon be impossible to ignore. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, not because I had work, but because I couldn't sleep anymore. My body felt tired, heavier than before, like something inside me had quietly shifted overnight. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at my hands. They looked older than I remembered. The skin was rough, the veins were more visible. There were small cuts I didn't even recall getting. I used to think these hands were strong, strong enough to carry everything, strong enough to protect my son from every hardship I once faced. But now, they just looked tired. I went to the kitchen and made breakfast, just like every day. Rice, eggs, a simple soup. The same meals I had cooked for years. Out of habit, I made an extra portion for him, even though I knew he wouldn't be home, even though I knew he probably wouldn't come back for a while. Still, I couldn't stop myself. Some things don't change just because your heart is hurting. After breakfast, I didn't go to work immediately. Instead, I sat down by the small window in the living room. The sunlight came in softly, touching the old furniture, the quiet walls, the empty chair across from me. That chair used to be his. I could almost see him sitting there, asking me questions, laughing, telling me about his day. I closed my eyes for a moment, and suddenly memories came rushing back. The day I held his tiny hand for the first time. The nights I stayed awake because he had a fever. The mornings I rushed to work after making sure he had enough to eat. Every moment, every sacrifice, they all felt so close. And yet somehow so far away. I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. There were no messages, no calls, just silence. For the first time in years, I didn't know what to do next. Work had always been my answer. Whenever I felt worried, I worked. Whenever I felt tired, I worked. Whenever I felt lost, I worked even more. Because I believed, as long as I kept going, everything would be okay. But sitting there in that quiet room, I realized something I had never allowed myself to think before. What if working hard wasn't enough? What if I had given him everything except the one thing he truly needed? Time, understanding, a chance to feel heard. Maybe, while I was busy trying to build a better life for him, I had slowly disappeared from his world. And now I didn't know how to come back. A sudden pain spread across my chest, not sharp, just heavy, like something pressing down, reminding me that I wasn't as strong as I used to be. I held onto the table for support and took a slow breath. "It's okay," I whispered to myself. I'm fine. But deep inside, I knew something wasn't right. And for the first time in many years, I felt afraid. Not of hard work, not of being tired, but of something much quieter. The fear that maybe I was running out of time to fix what I had lost. That evening, the house was quieter than ever. Not the usual silence, but the kind that feels heavy, like something important was about to happen. The child stood outside the door for a long time, phone in hand, screen on, but not really seeing anything, because inside their mind, something kept replaying. The tired voice, the slow steps, the moment they stood at the door and chose to walk away again and again, until it didn't feel small anymore. It felt wrong. The door was slightly open, just like the night before, a soft light inside, and a figure sitting quietly by the table, not working, not moving much, just sitting there, as if time had slowed down. For the first time, the child didn't hesitate. They pushed the door open gently. Are you okay? The question was simple, but it carried something new, something softer, something real. The parent looked up, a little surprised, but then a small smile. I'm okay. The same answer, the same habit. But this time, it didn't feel enough. The child stepped closer, closer than they had been in a long time. And then they saw it clearly. The tired eyes, the pale face, the quiet effort to look strong, and suddenly everything connected. All the mornings, all the nights, all the unnoticed moments, all the things they never asked about. I didn't know you were this tired. The voice was low, uncertain, almost afraid. The parent didn't answer immediately, because sometimes there are no easy words, only feelings that have been held for too long. It's okay, they said gently. I just didn't want you to worry. And that was it, that simple sentence, that quiet honesty. It broke something open. Tears didn't fall loudly. They came slowly, silently. I'm sorry, the words came out before they could be stopped. I said, I was ashamed. The voice trembled. I didn't mean, but the sentence couldn't finish. Because now they understood. Not completely, but enough. Enough to feel the weight of those words. Enough to wish they could take them back. The parent stood up slowly, walked closer, and placed a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. It's okay, they repeated, no anger, no blame, just understanding. Because love doesn't disappear after one sentence, even if it hurts, even if it leaves a mark. I only wanted you to have a better life, they said quietly, and I thought, working harder was the way. The child shook their head, tears still falling. I don't need a perfect life, a pause, a breath, I just need you. That moment was simple, no dramatic music, no big words. Just two people, finally seeing each other, not as roles, not as expectations, but as human beings, tired and perfect, but still there. And sometimes that is enough. That night, they sat together longer than usual, talking, slowly, honestly, not about success, not about pressure, but about feelings they had both kept hidden. And something gentle began to return, not everything at once, but enough to start again. If you are listening to this, maybe there is someone in your life who has been quietly giving more than you realize. Maybe they don't say it, maybe they don't show it, but it's there. In the small things, in the daily effort, in the love that doesn't ask for attention. And maybe it's not too late to look again, to listen again, to say something simple but meaningful. Because sometimes healing doesn't need perfect words, just a moment, just a little understanding, and the courage to care before it's too late. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to share it with someone you love. And don't forget to subscribe for more gentle English stories that stay with you long after they end.